For all his darkness, chaos, and heavy metal swagger, Ozzy Osbourne has always had one musical foundation: the Beatles. Long before the fame, the controversies, or the legend of the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy was just a kid in Birmingham who heard "She Loves You" on the radio in 1963 and felt his world explode. He has said countless times that without the Beatles, there would be no Ozzy Osbourne. Their melodies shaped his instincts, their harmonies shaped his taste, their fearlessness shaped his ambition. And throughout his career, from Black Sabbath to his solo years, Ozzy remained obsessed with the band that taught him what music could be. These are the 10 Beatles songs Ozzy Osbourne calls his absolute favorites, the tracks that shaped his voice, his style, and his entire life. Number 10, A Day in the Life, 1967.
I read the news today, oh boy.
To Ozzy Osbourne, A Day in the Life isn't just a Beatles song, it's the moment rock music became art. He has said many times that this track blew his mind when he first heard it, and even today he calls it one of the most haunting pieces ever recorded. For someone like Ozzy, whose entire musical identity thrives on darkness and drama, this song felt like home. What captivated him most was the contrast. John Lennon's dreamlike fatalism shifting suddenly into Paul's bright, frantic burst of everyday life. Ozzy once described it as two worlds colliding, a feeling he would later chase in his own music, the pull between light and shadow, despair and adrenaline. But the real impact came from the orchestra. Ozzy said the chaotic buildup felt like the end of the world, a sound so intense he didn't believe music could even do that. It shattered his understanding of what a rock band was allowed to be. When that final piano chord hits, massive, endless, and almost cosmic, Ozzy hears perfection. He calls it one of the greatest endings in music history, and the song that proved the Beatles could step beyond pop and rewrite the rules forever. Number 9, In My Life, 1965. For all his intensity and theatrics, Ozzy Osbourne has always had a sentimental side, and In My Life is the Beatles song that taps directly into it. Ozzy has called it one of the most beautiful songs ever written, a track that struck him deeply the first time he heard it on Rubber Soul. What moved Ozzy wasn't just the melody, but the honesty. Lennon's reflection on memory, loss, and the passage of time felt painfully real, even to a young Ozzy who hadn't yet lived the decades of chaos, addiction, fame, and recovery that would define his life. As he later admitted, the song only grew more powerful as he got older. Every line felt like it mirrored his own past, the friends he lost, the places he escaped, and the years he could never get back. Ozzy has often said that In My Life is the perfect example of Lennon's ability to be vulnerable without being sentimental. He admired how the lyrics were simple but heavy, emotional but never soft. The harmonies, the gentle piano solo, the clarity in Lennon's voice. To Ozzy, it was proof that the Beatles didn't need volume or experimentation to be revolutionary. When he talks about In My Life, Ozzy always uses the same word: truthful. And truth, for him, is what great music is built on. Number 8, She Loves You, 1963. Ozzy Osbourne has said many times that She Loves You was the song that changed his life. Before Black Sabbath, before metal, before fame, he was just a teenager in Birmingham when he first heard those opening harmonies. Yeah, yeah, yeah! Blasting from a cheap radio. Ozzy remembers freezing in place, overwhelmed by a sound he had never experienced before. To him, the Beatles didn't sound human. They sounded supernatural. The energy, the confidence, the clarity of the vocals, it felt like someone had kicked down the door to a new world. Ozzy said it made him believe that ordinary kids could rise from nothing and create something extraordinary. Most importantly, it made him believe he could do it too. She Loves You wasn't musically complex, but Ozzy always admired its fearlessness. The harmonies were sharp, the rhythm explosive, and the chorus unforgettable. He often said the song felt like a punch in the chest, the moment British music suddenly grew teeth. Even decades later, long after he became the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy still speaks about She Loves You with the awe of a fan, not a rock legend. To him, it's not just a Beatles song, It's the spark that ignited his entire destiny. Number 7. Help, 1965.
I need somebody help, not just anybody.
Ozzy Osbourne has always connected deeply with Help, calling it one of John Lennon's most honest performances. Long before Ozzy became known for his own battles with pressure, addiction, and the weight of fame, he felt something raw in Lennon's voice, something that didn't sound like pop music at all. Ozzy has said the song felt desperate in the best way, a cry for help disguised as a catchy hit. What struck him most was the contrast. On the surface, it's upbeat and melodic, but underneath, Lennon is falling apart. Ozzy related to that duality, the idea of performing confidence while everything inside you is collapsing. He has often said that rock stars are masters at hiding pain behind volume and charisma, and to him, Help was the first time he heard a major artist admit vulnerability without losing power. Ozzy also admired the production, the tight harmonies, the rushing tempo, the sharp acoustic strumming. It all gave the song a nervous energy that mirrored its lyrics. He said it captured the feeling of being swept away by success before you're ready, something he would experience himself when Black Sabbath exploded. To Ozzy, Help isn't just a Beatles classic. It's Lennon's mask slipping, and one of the most emotionally real moments in pop history. Number 6. Yesterday, 1965.
All my troubles seem so far away.
Ozzy Osbourne has always praised Yesterday as one of the most flawlessly written songs in modern history, a piece so pure and simple that it almost feels untouchable. For someone known for heavy riffs and dark atmospheres, Ozzy has a deep admiration for songs built on vulnerability, and Yesterday is the one he calls unbelievably perfect. What fascinates Ozzy most is how effortless it sounds. Just Paul McCartney, a guitar, and a string quartet. No effects, no tricks, no studio wizardry. Ozzy has said this is the kind of songwriting that separates the greats from everyone else, a melody so strong it can stand alone. He often notes that if you strip away everything from most rock songs, very few survive. Yesterday, he says, survives completely. Ozzy also connects to the emotional weight of the lyrics. Regret, loss, the feeling that life changes faster than you can keep up. These themes resonate with him deeply. He once mentioned that Yesterday feels like a confession, something painfully human. For Ozzy, it proved that the Beatles weren't just brilliant performers. They were storytellers who understood the fragility of life. Even as a metal icon, Ozzy speaks about Yesterday with reverence. To him, it's not only one of the Beatles' greatest achievements, it's one of the greatest songs ever written. Number 5. I Want to Hold Your Hand, 1963.
Tell you something.
For Ozzy Osbourne, I Want to Hold Your Hand wasn't just a hit, it was the explosion that changed everything. He has often said that this was the moment the Beatles stopped being a promising British group and officially became a cultural force. When Ozzy heard it for the first time, he knew instantly that music would never be the same again. Ozzy admired the song's electricity. The opening chord, the tight harmonies, the urgency in Lennon and McCartney's voices. It felt sharper, louder, and more confident than anything else on the radio. He described it as a shockwave, a sound so fresh that it seemed to break the rules of pop music in real time. What Ozzy loved most, though, was the precision. Even in its simplicity, the song is perfectly engineered. The hook hits immediately, the harmonies lock in with mathematical accuracy, and the energy never drops. As someone who would later build his career on intensity, Ozzy saw I Want to Hold Your Hand as the blueprint for how to grab an audience and never let go. He also connects the song to the rise of Beatlemania, something he witnessed as a young fan in Birmingham. To Ozzy, this was the track that unleashed the tidal wave, the moment when the Beatles became larger than life. He still calls it pop perfection, a song that changed the world in 2.5 minutes. Number 4. Nowhere Man, 1965.
Tell you something. I think you'll understand.
Ozzy Osbourne has always gravitated towards songs that carry emotional weight beneath calm surfaces, and Nowhere Man is one he calls strangely perfect. Unlike the love songs and upbeat hits of the Beatles' early years, this track showed Ozzy a new side of Lennon, introspective, detached, and brutally honest. Ozzy has said that Nowhere Man felt like hearing someone describe a feeling you didn't know how to put into words. The idea of being lost in your own life, disconnected from the world, unsure of who you are. These themes resonated deeply with Ozzy, especially during the turbulent early years of Black Sabbath. He often said Lennon was singing from the edge, and that sense of quiet despair struck him harder than any loud guitar riff ever could. Musically, Ozzy admired the track for its clarity. The harmonies are crisp, the guitar lines precise, and the production impossibly clean for 1965. He once mentioned that the song proved how powerful the Beatles were, even when they weren't trying to be revolutionary. They could create something impactful simply by being honest. To Ozzy, Nowhere Man is Lennon at his most human. No politics, no surrealism, no characters, just a man admitting his own confusion. And for Ozzy, that vulnerability made it one of the most important Beatles tracks of all time. Number 3, Strawberry Fields Forever, 1967. Ozzy Osbourne has called Strawberry Fields Forever one of the most mesmerizing pieces of music he has ever heard, a song that sounded not of this planet. For Ozzy, this track wasn't just another Beatles hit. It was the moment Lennon completely abandoned the rules of songwriting and stepped into something visionary. Ozzy has said that hearing it for the first time felt like entering another dimension. The swirling mellotron, the shifting tempos, the dreamlike vocals, everything about it challenged what pop music was supposed to be. As someone who later embraced dark atmospheres and unconventional structures in his own work, Ozzy found Strawberry Fields Forever intoxicating. What impressed him most was Lennon's vulnerability disguised inside the psychedelic haze. Beneath the strange production and surreal imagery, Ozzy heard a man struggling with identity, memory, and reality. He said the line, "Nothing is real," hit him harder than most heavy metal lyrics ever could, because it felt like Lennon was revealing a personal truth rather than performing poetry. Ozzy also admired the track's legendary studio experimentation. The tape edits, the layered effects, the backwards arrangements. He often described it as a dream that shouldn't make sense but somehow does, a musical illusion that only the Beatles could pull off. For Ozzy, Strawberry Fields Forever is Lennon at his most fearless, and the Beatles at their most imaginative. Number 2, Hey Jude, 1968.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad.
Ozzy Osbourne has often said that Hey Jude is one of the most powerful pieces of music ever recorded, not because of complexity or experimentation, but because of its emotional honesty. To Ozzy, this was Paul McCartney at his absolute peak. Pure melody, pure heart, pure humanity. What struck Ozzy most was the intimacy. The opening lines feel like Paul is speaking directly to one person, offering comfort without judgment. Ozzy once said the song feels like someone putting a hand on your shoulder, a feeling he rarely associates with rock music. As someone who lived through chaos, addiction, and emotional collapse, Ozzy found the song's message, take a sad song and make it better, almost painfully personal. But it was the second half, the legendary 4-minute coda, that completely blew him away. Ozzy described it as a hymn for the whole world, a moment where the band stops performing and simply becomes a force of collective energy. The na-na-na refrain, layered with harmonies and Paul's soaring ad-libs, felt to Ozzy like a tidal wave of hope. It was the kind of musical transcendence he would later chase in his own live performances. Ozzy admires Hey Jude because it proves that the Beatles didn't need effects, distortion, or studio tricks to be monumental. All they needed was emotion, and Paul delivered it with absolute conviction. Number 1, She's Leaving Home, 1967.
Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock.
For Ozzy Osbourne, She's Leaving Home is the most emotionally devastating song the Beatles ever recorded, and his personal favorite of all time. While most fans point to the experimental tracks of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Ozzy gravitated toward this quiet orchestral ballad that he says, hit me right in the soul. What moved Ozzy was its storytelling. Unlike the psychedelic brightness surrounding it, She's Leaving Home felt painfully real. The song captured something Ozzy had seen in his own childhood, families struggling, miscommunication, kids desperate to escape lives that feel too small. He admired how Paul McCartney wrote the verses with compassion, while John Lennon's backing lines added a haunting parental perspective. Ozzy said it was the sound of two worlds breaking apart at the same time. The absence of Beatles instruments also impressed him. No guitars, no drums, no band, just a string arrangement that made the song feel like a tiny tragedy unfolding in slow motion. For Ozzy, this was proof that the Beatles didn't need volume to create impact. They could break your heart with silence. He often said "She's Leaving Home" brought him to tears the first time he heard it. Not because it was sad, but because it was true. To Ozzy, this wasn't just a Beatles masterpiece. It was the moment he realized music could tell stories that felt like real life.